It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz. My colleague, living at large without NFL Game Pass. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I've got no NFL Game Pass. Kate has had a car win screen put through. I've got a cold, and I've worked out that I can somehow get heartburn eating ice cream. I'm not a happy bunny today.
The thought of you being more miserable than usual should fill everyone with dread.
Oh.
Although I did see Neil smile only a short weeks ago, and it wasn't because he got to spend time with me. It wasn't because he got to wear Hall of Fame John Riggins top. It wasn't that he got to laugh at my team drawing an NFL game. It was because him and Tony got one of the largest pizzas in Christendom, and they ate it on their own.
Damn right. Food makes me happy.
Food does make you happy. We'd like to thank the Gridiron Boys for sorting out Bloomsbury Lane's fantastic night. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. Some good games. Good to catch up with some people, NFL Girl UK and the like. Really enjoyable, and hope to do it again next year.
But not for the Saints Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm busy. I've checked my calendar, and I'm washing my hair that week.
Yeah, I don't think I could cope with a whole game of basically the entire world being up Jay's arse.
There's going to be a lot of Jay, especially if he continues at a not the pace he's doing now, as that won't happen, but it continues on a relative NFL player pace.
Yeah, and I've got no issue with Jay. I think he's a good player. He's obviously talented. He's an Arsenal fan, but it's getting up to Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard levels. Ooh, the UK's own Jay. He's about as UK as I'm American.
Yeah, he's gone to he's kind of the Tony Cascarino of the NFL. If you're unsure what that means, please Google it. Dutton, before we get into this week, quick one. What did you think of the game? Did you enjoy the day? And laughing at my team drawing a game.
I might be prejudiced because it was the first NFL game I've been to at Wembley where I was totally sober before I went in. I hadn't had any alcoholic beverages. I thought it was the best game we've seen. The Saints Chargers in 2008 was up there because that was two teams basically going blow for blow. But this was two teams that I thought were quite evenly matched. And there was good play on both sides of the ball from a number of players. So it was a good game. I really enjoyed it. A draw, despite the Associated Press saying we left dazed and confused. It's weird in the sense that a draw was probably a fair result because I don't think either team did enough to win.
That's a great story. As I've got blinkers on, how my team right now is not 6-2, I will never know after the Detroit and Cincinnati debacle. But never mind, 4-3-1, still in the hunt, and that's all you can ask for at the midpoint of the season. As it's the midpoint of the season, instead of hot wax takes, we've got mid-season awards. Dutton's got fantasy mid-season awards, and I've got boring normal ones. So first things first, Dutton, let's get those hot takes. So Dutton, you gave me the names of your awards, however, not who won them. So I'm gonna give people a name, and then you're gonna explain what the hell it means, and then say who's won. So the first one is the Jamie Lawson Award, i.e., I wasn't expecting that. Explain yourself.
This is the award for the fantasy superstar who literally has taken us all by surprise this year. You know, he may have come into the season, you know, with some people doubting he could be trusted on a week-to-week basis in fantasy, and he's come through with shining colours.
And that person is?
Mr. Matthew Ryan, currently QB1 in standard fantasy scoring.
I don't think there's any way you could deny that people were concerned by Matt Ryan going into the season. Hadn't gone as well as everyone would have hoped year one under Kyle Shanahan. Has gone well this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what happens when you have multiple weapons rather than one.
Yep, absolutely.
I've got an easy one, and that's MVP. If we did this in 3 weeks, it would be Tom Brady. but it's only week 9. He's only played 3 games. 3 games, right?
4.
4 games. He's played 4 games. So I can't give it to someone who's only played 50%. So as I love watching them play, and I mean love watching them play, the MVP right now is a quarterback of a 6-2 team, and that MVP is Mr. Derek Carr of the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders are fun again, Dutton, and the sexy deep ball, the championship belt has been well and truly passed.
I've watched pornography that didn't satisfy me as much as seeing Derek Carr throw deep.
Do you know what? One day you will not say David Carr. Do you know the difference between David? Do you know the difference between David Carr and Derek Carr?
An offensive line.
Yeah, the 5 lads in front of him. There should be a social experiment to go back in time and give David Carr Derek Carr's offensive line and see how well Houston would have done. So he's been sacked less times in the 4 years he's been in the NFL than David was in his first season with the Houston Texans.
God bless the expansion draft.
Dutton, your next award is the Roger Merter Award, as in, I'm getting too old for this shizzle.
Well, Roger Merter, of course, was Danny Glover's character in Lethal Weapon and was frequently decrying that he was getting too old for this. So this is the award for the veteran player who has fallen off the face of the earth and probably shouldn't be considered for fantasy purposes moving forward.
And that is?
Mr. Carson Palmer, currently QB 18 in standard scoring, and to be honest, should be an awful lot lower.
When you said QB, I was expecting 25. For him to be 18 surprises me greatly. They haven't been good, and I may be giving an award to them later on.
He looks old and slow.
He was always slow, so being old and slower is an issue. My next one, Dutton, is Coach of the Year. It's pretty simple, really.
Is it Norv Turner?
It's not Norv, no. It's Bill Belichick. They're 7-1. He didn't have a quarterback for 4 weeks, and now he has got a quarterback. They may win every game by 20 points.
He may as well let Josh McDaniels get some on-the-job training for the rest of the season and let him be the head coach.
Yeah, it's not the march to the AFC title game in Gillette goes apace, shall we say? Dutton, your next award is the Batman and Robin Award. Don't really need to tell you guys that it's the dynamic duo.
Yeah, this is an award I've given to 2 teammates in the same position group who've both been fantasy relevant, and basically it meant if you wanted, there's often this thing, people saying, I don't want too many people on my fantasy team from the same squad. These 2 guys have said, no, plug us in, we're good to go.
They are, Dutton.
And the award goes to Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper, wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 6 in standard scoring.
That is a pretty good effort to be 4 and 6 when the wide receivers are on the same team.
Mm-hmm. Good old Derek.
Good old Derek Carr. I done most surprising and most disappointing team for my final 2. Done. The first one is most surprising, and it hurts our souls, Done. It hurts our souls, me and you. The most surprising team in the NFL is the Dallas Cowboys.
It hurts our souls.
It hits, our souls. They are the other thing. People and ahed whether they could get back to 2 years ago form. Then Romo got injured. Never thought it would happen. They're actually secretly better, as they have a better running back and a better defense.
We're going to fall out here because it's got nothing to do with the running back.
No, I'm just no. Sorry. What I'm saying is, I'm saying they have a more talented running back than 2 years ago.
They might have done, but look how good they were 2 years ago with the running back they had. Then look how good their running game was last year.
Yeah, it's the 5 dudes, right? I understand it's the 5 dudes.
Yeah. This is, as I say, anyone who says, like, when eventually they win it, anyone who votes for Ezekiel Elliott for Rookie of the Year is wrong. it should be. If it's going to be anyone from the Cowboys, it's Dak Prescott, and it's as simple as that.
There we go. Hot take alert there from Dutton. Dutton, the Scooby-Doo Where Are You award. Brackets on Where Are You, obviously.
Well, this is the award given to a player who was taken ridiculously high, went into the season with, I don't think, unrealistic hopes, and basically has disappeared. He's missing. Where is he?
Where is he and who is he, Dutton?
His name is Allen Robinson, wide receiver, 37 in standard scoring.
He is on milk cartons in the States. Screw you, Blake Bortles. Screw you.
Yeah. Blake Bortles, you've made this offense suck. All on you.
They need a new
Douchebag.
quarterback stat.
Mm-hmm.
Final one, Dutton. His most disappointing team, and for me, you've already mentioned their quarterback, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. They were Super Bowl or bust this year. They traded for Chandler Jones, and they stink, and their offensive line is offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't do anything on offense that apart from give it to David Johnson, which, don't get me wrong, is commendable and can work, but it's not going to get you to the Super Bowl.
And plus, if David Johnson has 400 touches this year, we've seen what happens the year after.
Bad things. Bad things. Done.
Just quickly going back. The Jaguars took Blake Bortles third overall. The Raiders took Derek Carr in the second round.
Can someone say reach on Blake Bortles, by the way? I mean, that happens all the time, but at the time, people didn't think that Blake Bortles was the third quarterback and the third best player in the draft, so it now looks really, really bad. That's our hot take mid-season awards. Let's just get on with the games of the week.
The games of the week.
Touchdown, 85 yards! He's going to score! He's going to score! He's going to score! Touchdown!
We like picking games that are good, we think are going to have a lot of points, and we usually pick the over-under. Our first game, however, is off the board at the moment in Vegas and betting sites across the UK. And that is Steelers at Ravens, Dutton. Obviously, that's due to, as your mate Terrell Suggs would say, unsure on whether Fat Arse will play. So the first question is, should fantasy players be expecting Big Ben to start?
Absolutely. There is a Y in the day, and there's not a chance in hell if he's come out and said he doesn't know if he's going to play. Very good, Ben. Oh, really? That it's the equivalent of the friend who's stopping drinking. Who tells all his mates, "Oh, I've packed in drinking." Put the bottle down then. If Ben Roethlisberger is upright, he's going to play, and the Steelers need him to play because Landry Jones is #awful.
Yeah, he's not even #ungood. He is #awful. If he does play, that does make him a cyborg, right? Because torn meniscus is not a 3-week injury or a 2-week injury as it will be.
Well, it means basically that he's going to be playing through still a meniscus injury, but he's a hero, so and ultimately, heroes don't ask, what can I do? They just get up and do it. It's probably not beneficial for his health, but ultimately, get off your horse and drink your milk.
He is John Wayne. Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell were semi-relevant. If some would say more than semi-relevant against the Patriots, 100 yards for Antonio. If we find out Big Ben's a late scratch, should we be? We know they won't be as good as they will be with Big Ben, but will he still be relevant against the Ravens with Landry Jones, even though he is #awful?
The Ravens are in free fall. Their defense is not good. They're getting some of their players back this week, but not all of them. Brown and Bell can always be started with a high level of confidence. It's just a question of, don't expect either of them to carry your fantasy team this week. There'll be more contributors. Because then the Ravens are not good, but it's hard to run on them. But as we've seen, Bell has played against other teams that don't really like being run on, but he's still put up fantasy points because of how he's been used in the passing game. So It's not the best Steelers offense if Landry Jones is piloting it, but if Roethlisberger's back there, then Brown, Bell, even Darius Hayward-Bay has some fantasy value.
I suppose the question on the Ravens is pretty simple. They've struggled on offense, sacked Mark Trestman. No Steve Smith this week, it seems like. They were on a bye. Last week, can the offense be fixed?
They've entrusted their offense to an awful lot of pieces that are injured and injury prone and misfits from various places. Mike Wallace, of course, revenge game narrative. Steve Smith, to say, he's fallen to pieces. Dennis Pitter, that no one expected he'd still be here. He's still getting, I think he's had 8 targets in 5 of 7 games he's played this season. He'd be having a wonderful fantasy season if he scored touchdowns, but he hasn't got a single one. Although someone actually pointed to saying, Dennis Pitter hasn't scored a touchdown since 2013. Bravo, dickhead. He hasn't played a full season since then. So thanks to that narrative, I haven't scored an NFL touchdown since then either. But, regression is due. It's not a good offense. It's makeshift. I mean, everyone was high on Kenneth Dixon when he comes in, but we still don't know. Terrence West was having an awakening like Christian Michael. He's gone off the boil as well. Joe Flacco looks boringly efficient, but is he elite? He doesn't look like he's about to catch fire anytime. And I'm sorry, but if you think that the person who's got the key to unlock the potential of this offense is Marty Morenweek, you're going to be disappointed. Marty Morenweek was head coach of the Detroit Lions. This was written back in the old days of the old overtime rules. They won a coin toss in overtime when he was at the Lions and said, "Oh, we'll just defend," and gave the other team the wind. Don't tell me this fella can run an NFL offense, because I've seen it. He can't.
And say, Dutton, you've got first-hand knowledge of that. Steelers at Ravens, Dutton. It's off the board, but who do you think is going to win the game?
I'm going to take the Steelers, even if Landry Jones doesn't play. If Roethlisberger plays, I think it could be a rout. If Landry Jones plays, it'll be more of a street fight. But I just have more faith in the Steelers' offensive players than I do the Ravens.
The Steelers are infinitely better and infinitely more talented than the Ravens.
What happens then in these situations?
No,
What's
but this is
do?
Yeah, this is the problem, right? This is, to be honest, the Dolphins are probably more talented than the Ravens, so that gives you the standing. As this is an AFC North encounter rather than a random game, I do expect the Steelers to win, though. Next game is Colts at Packers, which Daggers just announced was on for the is the five live game, and announced it as 2 of the best teams in the league. I happen to point out to Daggers that maybe his tweet got stuck from 2013. The over is 54, Dutton. And my question is, unlike me, a joint question. Are these 2 teams in the top 5 most disappointing teams in the league this year?
Undoubtedly. Although I would say that the Packers are more of a disappointment than the Colts. I don't think many people... I think an awful lot of people expected that Andrew Luck would come back and be halfway between what he was last year and what he was 2014. Andrew Luck has actually been very good. He's throwing, he's taking a few sacks. He's throwing interceptions, although not as... I don't think he threw one last week. I might be wrong. He has to take these chances because the cupboard is so bare. You've got Dante Moncrief back. That's going to be huge. But we've said it all the time. The offensive line cannot protect Andrew Luck. The defensive line cannot sack the quarterbacks. They don't generate turnovers. This is a terrible, terrible team. The Green Bay Packers, whisper it, they're not 0-8. So they're still in competing. We've just been up, used to such a high level of performance. We're not getting it. But the last 2 games, Aaron Rodgers has actually been pretty good. So maybe something's come on.
Andrew Luck was 19 of 35 for 210 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception against the Chiefs. That's my next question on Aaron Rodgers. Dutton, signs of life over the past couple of weeks?
Well, basically, you look at the revolving door, the cast of players they've got at running back. It looks like they've gone to the 2010 model of balls. We can't run the ball. What's the point? Just put it in Rodgers' hands and then let him dictate it. I mean, Rodgers led the team in rushing against the Falcons with 60. So it's one of those. If you may as well just say, if you say to the opposition, "We're just going to pass," then you get you become one-dimensional. Yeah, but that doesn't make it a bad thing. As long as you can execute. I mean, Devontae Adams is actually in the last 2 weeks is actually the wide receiver 2 in standard scoring. What the hey?
And the Cubs won the World Series. The apocalypse is indeed coming. 36 targets, 31 catches, 318 yards at 10.3 a clip, 4 touchdowns, over 20 yards with 4 passes. Jack Doyle, I assume a private eye from 1920 Chicago. Is he sustainable?
Well, it depends. If he has to go and investigate, a missing person or a drug deal going south. I mean, we don't know. I mean, but it's one of those names. As I say, he is basically a character out of a Philip Chandler, a Raymond Chandler novel. He's good. He's tight end, as we say, is a nuclear waste ground, but he's been consistent. He's been better than Dwayne Allen. And you look at the tight ends that are around there. I'm not going to say he's matchup proof, but he's certainly chipping in. And he's a big play threat. If you get the ball in his hands, he's quite nimble for a big fella. He's a good red zone weapon. We know T.Y. Hilton doesn't get an awful lot of use in the red zone. Don't know whether Dante Moncrief coming back is going to cap that. But if you don't like streaming your tight ends and you'd rather have the same guy week in, week out, you could do an awful lot worse than Jack Doyle this year. And to be honest, I have.
I think most people have done. Colts at Packers. Over is 54. Who you got, and are you going to take the over?
I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Packers. I don't see shootout as such because I think both teams can't run the ball. So neither of them are going to try and establish the run. They're basically just going to have to put it in their respective number 12's hands and say, it's on you. So I'm going to take the under. I'm not going to say massively under, but, might be something, like, I don't know, 26-20 or something like that. But yeah, I will side with the old stager over Andrew Luck. Do you remember, by the way, it was obviously a while ago, there was a Colts, it was at the Colts, it was Colts with Peyton Manning and Packers with Brett Favre, and I think literally there was like 5 touchdowns within the space of like 10 minutes.
I think it was.
I
think we watched it in Mullins, and it was one of the greatest games we'd ever seen. Yes, I do remember it.
Yeah, and we're not big on basketball scoring like that, but this wasn't like awful defense. This was just clinical offense.
This wasn't Oklahoma State, Texas Tech college football. This was actually pro style at its best. Colts or Packers. I'm going to take the Packers. Signs of life. I thought they played well against Atlanta. Just couldn't stop them, which was surprising because the defense had been decent the first few weeks. Colts stink, plain and simple. I'm probably going to take the under as well. Maybe something 30-20 Packers. Final game, Dutton, is game of the weekend. Absolutely. 6-2 Broncos at 6-2 Raiders Sunday night. Bravo NBC. You might get some ratings. Over is 43.5. First question is, Dutton, when should we start believing that this Oakland team could be a danger in January, not just in November?
Well, they need... It's like I always say with Sheffield Wednesday. Chal asked me the other day, when do you start to believe that Wednesday could do something? No. Get me 50 points. I don't care when you get them. Get me 50 points. We'll look at then, and then we'll go ahead. As soon as the Raiders get to 8 wins, let's talk about them. Because they've done it once since they got to the Super Bowl. So it's one of those, if they can get to 8 wins in the next 3 weeks, then you do have to say, well, now they can start looking at maybe getting a home game. Teams aren't going to want to go there or whatnot, and then we can start talking about all the weapons they've got. But if they only get to 8 in something like week 17, we'll know they've shit the bed. So get 8 wins, and then we'll take them very seriously. But they are so much fun to watch, even if they like giving the opposition 200 or so yards in penalties.
We love the Raiders on Waxing Lyrical. We are big fans, and our Twitter handle at Waxing_Lyrical shows that every week. I'm gonna douse the Flames a little bit here. Wins against the Saints, the Titans, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Jaguars, and the Bucks. It's not exactly murderer's row. They've lost 2 games, Dutton. Falcons, Chiefs. Do you know what those 2 teams have in common that the others don't?
They're good.
Yeah, winning records, Neil. Well done. Winning records. Love the Raiders. Hope they're relevant. Can unfortunately see them going 9-7. Now that is progress, and everyone should be happy with that. Will people be happy when they've been 6-2? Different story. Next 4 weeks, weirdly enough, all at home, which I'm not sure is a good thing for them. Denver, the Texans, the Panthers, and the Bills, followed by at the Chiefs. Massive 5 games. If you can get out of that, 2-3. Last 3 games. Then you've got Chargers, Colts, and then at Denver last game. I see 9-7 in the future.
I can see them going 3-2 at the floor in those next 5.
That's the hope, Dutton. It's a massive 5 weeks, 4 of which are at home. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we're about to find out.
3-2, that puts them what? 9-4?
8. Yeah, 9-4, yeah.
And then
it's gravy at that point, Dutton.
Yeah. But, ultimately this game is, as we like to say, from Gorilla Monsoon parlance, this is an irresistible force meeting an immovable object.
It is, Dutton. It is, absolutely. On the other side of the Broncos ball, will the running back issues in Denver derail their chances of a repeat?
Very possibly. I mean, last year they didn't exactly tear it up with the running back position, but they were productive enough. Now if they've got to trust to Devontae Booker, who, don't get me wrong, is very talented, they didn't look particularly good last week. They won, so hats off to them. But they're going to have, if they can't get the running game sorted, they're going to have to lean more heavily on the defense. Which, don't get me wrong, Denver will do. And if you're basically putting your trust in Wade Phillips, you're not going to go too far wrong. Hope he's feeling better, by the way. He has one of the under the radar. He has a great Twitter game.
It's not even under the radar, Dutton. He's a defensive coordinator for an NFL team, and he lights people on fire. Yeah,
same things like was it? I didn't get crushed into. I got run over. Things he's a great man, obviously. And as long as he's back there calling the plays with the players they've got, they're going to be in with a shot. But they're going to bore their way into the postseason. They're not going to blow anyone away. But ultimately, that's what Kubiak wants. That's how Kubiak, made his bones.
Final question, really, don't it? It's just it's a one-liner. Isn't it good for this to be a big game again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this goes. You watch old, America's Game or a Football Life, and see the likes of John Madden and Al Davis and Kenny Stabler and Lyle Alzado and these people. Literally, these teams hate each other, which is ultimately why it was such a shock. Why did Al Davis hire Mike Shanahan? Surely he must have known he wasn't going to get on with him. It's good that this has relevance because it's like Damashek always says he spoke to someone like a few years ago who was a Browns fan and went, "Oh, we can't be friends because we're rivals." And he went, "Rivalry's a two-way street, mate. You mean absolutely nothing to me." To be rivals,
you have to be relevant. Absolutely,
you have to beat them occasionally. And don't get me wrong, the Raiders have taken a few important games off the Broncos recently. Last year, I think, was that Khalil Mack got 5 sacks. That was Brock Osweiler playing, and I don't know if anyone's noticed. It's very much on the QT, so keep this under your hat. He's shite.
Broncos at Raiders, Dutton. Sunday night. I'll be watching it on Game Pass because mine works.
Screw you.
Over 43.5. Who wins the game?
I'm going to take over. I'm taking the Raiders. I'm hanging onions.
Over or under 43.5, Dutton?
Let's go over.
Wow. Straight fire from Dutton. I love the Raiders. I do, but they are not winning this game. I hope I'm wrong. Really hope I'm wrong. I'm taking the Broncos in the under in one of them defense wins championships type idea.
You boring mofo.
I am boring. That is proper Mainz boring. But as our friend and listener Chal will tell you, Mainz gets the defence side of the ball right a lot of the time. Dutton, that's the games of the week. Let's get on and let's talk about your fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
Who is it this week, Dutton?
Well, previously, the only time anyone had ever heard of someone called this name, he was a disappointing rear gunner on Luke Skywalker's snowspeeder in Hoth. There now is a Dak that we can all get behind as a relevant fantasy player. That's Mr. Prescott. Didn't play well against the Eagles, have to stress that. But Prescott's playing the Browns. It may seem like every week I'm picking on the Browns. It's because I am.
He's good though, Dutton, right? He should be getting played. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he's getting to the point that Russell Wilson had in his rookie season. If you have Dak Prescott, you don't have to worry about the quarterback position in your fancy team.
That's good because I picked him up this week in our league.
Yeah,
that's our fancy darling, Dutton. Let's see who the fancy loser is. Who is it, Dutton?
Anyone who's starting any offensive skill players from the Philadelphia Eagles in their fancy team.
Now, and this is, I think you've been very good this year, but with the exception of Carson Wentz, is there any offensive skill players on the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
No, this offense is terrible. This is now we have to start looking. Maybe Sam Bradford wasn't the problem. These players are awful. So, I'd just like to say, I'm sure he's listening. Thank you very much, Chip, for the decimation of this offensive roster and leaving us with this crap. I say us. I'd
like to say I do thank Chip Kelly for this, but that's different, obviously.
Yeah. Tell you what, Chip, why don't you pick up that prick on waivers that's been released because he thinks it's acceptable to drive while high with hollow point bullets in his car. You took him at college. You drafted him. You take him. This offense is abysmal. The Eagles will go as far as the defense can take them this season. So we'll take whatever Carson Wentz gives us, because he's going to have to dink and dunk it an awful lot because this offense sucks. And I'm not being funny. Frank Reich saying that Nelson Aguilar is blocking better than any wide receiver in football at the moment. So we wasted a first round draft pick for a blocker. What game are you watching, Reich? Because I'll watch the Eagles game. You can go off and watch something else because you clearly aren't paying attention. So we're all losers. Anyone associated with the Eagles?
I want some kind of hot take button, loud siren, something, because that was a brand for the ages. Fantasy darling is Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys, and fancy loser is the Philadelphia Eagles. It's like Dutton's idea of hell. And the less we talk about that, the better. Although I have a feeling we're going to come back to that quarterback pretty soon, as we're going to do Mainz and Dutton's fancy teams of the week.
Mainz and Dutts, daily fantasy team of the week.
Show me the money.
Week 9, Dutton. DraftKings daily fantasy team of the week. Who's your quarterback?
I'm going to go bold and go with Dak Prescott.
That's really bold, Dutton, because I am also going with Dak Prescott, 6,100. And not only is he playing well, although as Neil said, struggled against the Eagles, although that's allowed because they are a good defence. He's also had 4 rushing touchdowns this year, which is a cheeky little thing you can put in your back pocket.
Absolutely.
Running back 1, Dutton.
His mate, Ezekiel Elliott.
That's weird because I also have Ezekiel Elliott, 7,900. I don't need stats for this one. He playing the Browns.
It should point out, to anyone, who does want to get involved in DraftKings, if there's a link on the Waxing Lyrical Twitter feed, go get involved. It's not just the NFL. There's all different types of sports you can play. So get involved and help us keep the lights on.
And if you want to actually play against me, that is possible as well. I am at Mainzy7, so I am Mainzy7 on DraftKings. Dutton is Dutton13 on DraftKings, I believe. So hunt us down, play head to head. It's fun. Running back to Dutton, who have you got?
I've got Shaq Kendrick West. as it's continuing the theme that pretty much I'm going to ride every single Chiefs running back this season in the absence of Jamal Charles. They're playing the hapless Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's 4,400.
Is it ironic how often you pick a Kansas City Chiefs running back, considering the first 5 to 7 years of us watching the NFL, all he did was scream at Andy Reid for not running the ball enough?
Let's take the San Francisco 49ers out the equation. I'm struggling to think of another NFL team who I wouldn't trade every single offensive skill player for what the Eagles have got. Every single one of them. If it was like for like, screw the 49ers. They've made their bed. I'm struggling generally to think, oh, but he might be. No, he's not.
Andy Reid is a wizard.
Fat wizard.
Fat wizard. He's a very fat wizard. My running back too is, someone mentioned the 49ers. Yes, we do bully rubbish teams here on Daily Fantasy. I've gone for Tim Hightower, Dutton.
Nice.
4,000 he is. He's going to be the featured back this week in New Orleans after Mark Ingram was kicked to the curb for being, what's the word I'm looking for, #awful. And he's playing the 49ers and they flat out stink.
It's the annoying thing is that, by benching Mark Ingram and then saying that Tim Hightower has earned more playing time, Sean Payton has basically made Mark Ingram and Tim Hightower both fantasy kryptonite, especially in redraft. But against the 49ers, he might well get some red zone work and get a few touchdowns. So
that's the hope. Wide receiver 1.
Downtown Antonio Brown.
I've gone downtown Antonio Brown. These teams are very similar. We both think Big Ben will start, and if he does, Antonio Brown is a must start.
There are rumours he does look for Brown early and often.
And that's good for us. Wide receiver 2, Dutton.
Emmanuel Sanders.
This is now officially unbelievable, because I just like to state, as I state every week, we do a rundown, but we do not share our own fantasy teams of the week. I also have Emmanuel Sanders, 6,300. Explain yourself why you've got him, Dutton.
The Raiders, as they are a potent offense, they're still not a very good defense, and I think this game does have shootout potential. So Emmanuel Sanders is the most efficient wide receiver in Denver. So I will take him over Demaryius Thomas, and I love Demaryius Thomas, but you've got to take on board what's happening. Sanders has got to be the play.
If anyone watched Raiders against Tampa Bay, Mike Evans was wide open all last week, and Jameis Winston missed him multiple times. If Trevor Siemian doesn't miss Emmanuel Sanders, he will get a lot of yards and touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver 3, Dutton. There's no way we've got the same one. I refuse to believe it.
3,900, deep threat against a very burnable secondary. I've got Kenny Stills, the Miami Dolphins.
Was he with Crosby, Hall and Nash as well, or just Stills if you got?
Move on.
I've got for 5,100 back-to-back weeks for Quincy Enunwa, and I've said his name right again. He's playing the Dolphins. He's had 2 touchdowns in his last 2 games. Also got 93 receiving yards last week. Was actually probably my best player as I stunk at this last week. So he's back on my team. Hoping Fitz can throw it to him rather than they got the lad who used to play Byron Maxwell. So it's fine. We're fine. He'll find Quincy Enunwa. Who's your tight end on?
Tight end is Dennis Pitter. As I say, he's got 8 targets in 5 out of 7 games this season. Hasn't scored a touchdown yet. Now, all positive, metrics say that doesn't happen. You don't keep getting that many targets and not find the end zone. So the Steelers aren't that good against the tight end. Pitter's 3,800, and to be honest, he's one of the few things you can hang your hat on for the Ravens.
I asked the question about Jack Doyle as I'd looked at the stats, and I picked him in my fantasy team. He's 3,600. I think he's the number 2 option in Indianapolis right now. I think they will be behind a lot, so therefore throw a lot. So I expect Jack Doyle to get a lot of targets.
He's got place, isn't he?
Exactly, and once he's done that, he can go and steal some Prohibition hooch from Al Capone.
Yeah. Let's do some good, gentlemen.
Who's your flex, Dutton?
Cole Beasley.
Oh, this is a heavy Browns destruction game. How much is Cole Beasley done.
Cole Beasley's 5,300. Des Bryant coming back, someone said, it might cap Cole Beasley's value. Well, yeah, it does, but Beasley's not been a big touchdown scorer. He has had at least 50 yards in every game, and even when Bryant was fit early in the season, he was still being out-targeted by Cole Beasley. So he's a nice safety blanket for Dak Prescott. And I don't know if we've mentioned it, the Browns are awful, and I'm taking my pound of flesh from them this week.
I asked a question on the Baltimore offense, can it be better? The only way it can be better for me is they run the ball more. They need to control the ball against Pittsburgh, if at all possible. I've gone for Terrence West, hoping it's still him, not Kenny Dixon. 4,700. That is the shot in the dark in the Mainz's Marvels this week. Dutton, who's your defense?
The Dallas Cowboys.
Wow, this is unbelievable. Okay. If you would you have thought in week 1 you would have picked the Dallas Cowboys against anyone as your defense?
No. I think this is actually the second time I've taken the Cowboys defense this season. They're 3,400. The Browns are very generous. We don't know who's going to be quarterback. It may well be Cody Kessler. They're going to be behind. The Cowboys are actually very good against running backs. So they're going to shut down Isaiah Crowell. They're going to shut down Duke Johnson. And basically they're going to have to say to Kessler, McCowan, Kevin Hogan, Bernie Kosar, Otto Graham, whoever actually plays, say, you're going to have to throw. I mean, granted, and the good thing is that they will take on the Cowboys secondary because they're missing Mo Claiborne and Barry Church. Lovely story. I'm still taking the Cowboys.
For people who don't know Bernie Kosar or Otto Graham are, ask your parents. Defense and special teams. After a wake-up game last week, I'm picking the Carolina Panthers at 3,400. In the same kind of bullying situation, Jeff Hero Fisher is still playing Case Keenum. And last time I saw Case Keenum, he was in London throwing 4 interceptions. Yes, please. Yeah. I will have myself some of that.
Yeah, that was some 7 and 9 bullshit.
That was straight 7 and 9 garbage. So Dutton, let's quickly go back through our teams as they are basically identical. Who's your quarterback?
The Dallas Cowboys offense. Dak Prescott.
Running back 1.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yep. Running back 2.
Shakandrick West.
I've got Tim Hightower. Wide receiver 1. Downtown Antonio Brown. Who's your wide receiver 2, Dutton?
Manny Sanders.
I've also got Manny Sanders. Who's your wide receiver 3?
Kenny Stills.
I've got Quincy Enunwa. I keep on getting his name right. This is awesome. Tight end.
Dennis Pitta.
I've got Jack Doyle. Who's your flex?
Cole Beasley.
I've got Terrence West. Defense.
How about them Cowboys?
I've got the Panthers. That was an old drop that isn't on the board anymore, unfortunately.
That's a you problem.
That is a me problem. It is. That's week 9 wrapped up and in the books. If you want to converse with us, we are together at waxing_lyrical. Neil is
not in the biblical sense.
Not in the biblical sense, obviously. At ndutton13. I am at Mainzy7. Rate us on iTunes. Join the conversation, as idiots say on Twitter. We like chatting to people and we love talking about the NFL. Dutton, any last words?
Yeah, if you're having Game Pass issues, please copy me into your tweets to them. We will get this sorted out, people.
Dutton, in full rant mode, this has been Waxing Lyrical. Get used to it.